Good morning and welcome to Always in Stitches and welcome to Bertie's Year. Today's our first video on Bertie's Year, so I'm really excited to share this adventure with you. This will last all year long. If our kits should go out starting probably Monday. Lisa's gone already today, so she'll ship those out to you on Monday. And I've got a lot to show you, so let's just get going on this. Some people think that you only work with wool in the winter time, but we really haven't had a winter, so you can work with wool anytime. And the beauty of Bertie's Year is we are using wool, we're using flannel, and we're using quilting cotton. So it's the best of all three worlds, and you'll get a little bit of quilting experience along with your wool experience also. So without further ado, like I said, there's a lot to show you. Here is the kit that you will get. Now your kits will probably be about the same size every month because it gives you your wool, your flannel, and then your quilting cottons. And a lot of it you will have some left over. Your background, which is the dark flannel, you will have some of that left over. A few of the wool pieces you will have just enough, and other ones you will have a little bit of extra. So save those scraps because you never know when you need just a little bit of this or a little bit of that. If it's actually too small to even think about, don't worry about it. So you will get this, and you will get your Bertie's Year book. So what I recommend when you get your book is thumb through it, become familiar with it, see where the patterns are. The patterns are here in the back, and then your instructions are more towards the front. She gives you some basic instructions in the front on wool applique, and I'll be going through that with you on this video. I may not go through it every month because some of you are experienced in it, so you could just fast forward through this part. But I do have some things to share with you that I think will make your experience good. If you're a beginner, you want to pay close attention. So here we go. So be looking for that coming up. Please, please, please read through your whole pattern before you cut the first piece of wool, before you cut the first piece of flannel. Because I made the mistake. I thought, oh, I know better. Well, it messed it up. So please read through everything. There are reasons she tells you to do things the way that she tells you to do them, so follow those directions. So we're going to start out with February, and we've got, I'm not sure which one is Bertie. I think Bertie is the female, but she has a male suitor here. And he's got his branch of the bleeding heart. So these are all your little pieces that you're going to be cutting. So when we talk about this, your pattern is going to be here in the back. And if you look at this, you'll see some dashed lines that are tucked under another piece. That is where you want to cut, like his beak. He has a dashed line around it. You want to trace out that entire piece. Don't stop just at where it comes to the bird itself, because they're going to overlap each other, and you need to have that. So you'll trace each piece of the pattern out individually. Like with the hat, you'll have your hat pattern, and then you will have the hat band. So these are two different pieces, but it shows as one in the book. She's real good about giving you directions on cut one, cut two, and I didn't pay attention, so I have to make sure I have my other pieces. That's why I said, read everything before you do anything. When you have your wool pieces, you will be tracing on an adhesive At least I do. There are different ways to do it. I used soft fuse. We have some of this in the shop, I think by the yard. It's the really wide stuff. The gal who makes the soft fuse had a stroke a while back, and I'm not sure that they're making this anymore, so we went out and found Wonder Fuse. I have not used this yet. Probably at some point when I run out of my soft fuse, I'll have to go back and use it, but it works the same way as a soft fuse. It has both a front and a back. Get a little piece here. And if you, the top is real smooth and it's just like paper, so that you're able to lay it over your pattern and then you can trace directly on it. You can use pencil. This time I used a thin Sharpie marker, and you will want to trace all the way around that. Now on the other side, I don't know if it'll show up, Peter, but there is a webbing on it. Let's see if I can peel this up a little bit. There we go. Right there on my fingernail. That is your fusible. So that is the side that you want to iron face down on your wool. Now, if you see, I cut pretty close to my lines. You don't want to cut directly on the line. You want to have a little bit extra. Here's where I cut some of the extra off. I will have this piece of wool right here that I can throw in my scrap bucket, which, because there's so many little pieces and things, I might need that. So I went ahead and fused everything together so that, oh, these haven't been fused together, but I traced them. I did mark them as far as what they are, just so I knew. You're going to be tracing a wing for the female and one for the male. Since they are facing each other, their wings are going to go opposite. So I made sure I wrote female wing, male wing, and then I wrote the color on here. Some of them, it's a no-brainer. You know exactly where that's going to go. But I just made sure that I identified what was what. So, here we go. Like I said, I fused some things together, and I wanted to show you, I didn't cut everything out, but I did cut out the male bird because I wanted to show you the layering. Now, when I say layering, there are probably 100 different ways of layering your wool before you fuse it on. Whatever way is easiest for you, do that way. I'm just telling you what I use. If you do not like using an iron-on fusible, we do have a product called Roxanne, and it bastes your wool pieces down. So you can use these instead of the fusible. Some of you don't want to use any of that. You'll just use applique pins, and we do have those here in the shop. They're a smaller pin, and they'll hold your pieces down where you have them. When it comes to cutting them out, you will need good sharp scissors because wool is thicker than your cotton, so you need something that's going to cut well. And I used these for my detailed cutting, for just to get into those small places. I did pull out a different pair of scissors when I was cutting a larger. These, the Karen K. Buckley's, they are really good scissors. They're sharp, and they'll get in there where you need to get in there. So, all right, she will start out with telling you how to cut your flannel, and you'll get a ½ yard of your backing fabric. Now, she gives you a diagram of how to cut it so that you'll have enough of everything. Make sure you follow that. You will have one background piece, and then you'll have another piece that is exactly the same size. That is if you just want to do the monthly wall hanging, because then that would be your back of your piece. So I have gone ahead, and it says you start with a 9 1/4 by 13 1/2. She wants you to start a 1/4 inch up from the bottom. and I'm not sure if you can see this on here, Peter, but I took a white pencil and I drew a line all the way across. It's kind of faded out now because I had it folded up. That's 1/4 of an inch up. And I used the white pencil in this quilting pencil pack. Being a dark fabric, I had to have something lighter, so I used the white. You might be able to get away with the gray, but I think the white did the best. And like I said, it's going to brush off, so you don't have to worry about it. But that's going to be in your seam allowance, so you don't have to worry about that. This is your first piece that you want to put on. This is a grassy mound that the birds are standing on. Everything's going to be built on top of that. So I put the bottom of this piece along that line, maybe just a smidge up, and went ahead and pressed that down. So that's all ready to go. You may think, oh, I should start stitching that now. I wouldn't start stitching until you have everything layered on where you want it to go. And we're going to do some layering with Mr. Bird here. So this is how your pieces are. She has already flipped the patterns for you, so you don't need to worry about doing that. It looks like here's the male bird that you would trace on your paper, but actually he's going to be that direction. So he's the first layer that you're going to put on. You want to peel off this paper layer, and if you can see that, the fusible shows up kind of white is on there. If it comes off when you take the paper off, you haven't gotten it pressed down enough. So you might want to hit it with the iron again. So I'm going to take him and I refer back to the main picture. He's going to be sitting, his foot's going to come down right about there. So this is you're going to embroider his leg down to here, and then his feet are going to go over the mound. So I need to maybe turn him a little bit. Okay, so he is the main piece. So I'm going to take him over to the ironing board. And I have my iron set on the wool setting. These have shut-offs so they'll cool down. You want to make sure it's hot enough to go through the wool. So make sure your iron's warm enough. And then I use a pressing sheet, which is just a Teflon sheet. Mine is brown, but we have this one. It's from Nifty Notions. It's a Teflon pressing sheet. It's 18 by 20, which I believe is about the same size as this one. This is helpful because if you get your iron too hot and you're doing a lighter color wool, you risk scorching your wool, and then you'll have a mark on it. So you press, you don't iron, you don't go back and forth. You find your piece that you're fusing on and you press down. You can kind of lift. Okay, I did not get him quite there. And sometimes you need to put your iron on a little higher setting, but don't go too high because you don't want to scorch your wool or melt anything. The only thing you want to melt is that webbing on the back. Okay, this iron does not like it. So I will be daring and not use my pressing sheet. All right. And this is why I say you might test a little piece. Did any of it? Okay, it's starting. It could be my iron was not hot. Oh, that feels hot enough. This is not the iron I use at home. So each iron is different. And if after a few tries, there we go.
There we go.
And you may just want to flip it over, feel where he is, and just give that a good press, because that way your flannel is not as thick as your wool, so it will press it down. And that's how you test as you go around, make sure he's all pressed down. So your next piece is going to be the wing. And it's the medium brown. Make sure that it's the male wing and not the female wing. Peel that off. Referring to your book, his wing is going to be and you don't have to have it exact, but because he has the flowers tucked under his wing, you want to be pretty close on that. Then you press that one down. So it's going to give just a little extra press to the piece below. So it's all pressed down. Okay, next we're going to put on his hat, which there's 2 pieces to his hat. Oops. Okay. I have a oops, but that's good because he has a beak. His beak should have gone underneath here. So you will be able to peel up a little bit on your wool if you do something out of order like that. Now I had to trim his beak down because he looked like he had a prehistoric beak. I don't know why. But you want to tuck that in. Yeah, it doesn't look so prehistoric. It was huge. So we thinned him out. And then all you're going to do is press down. You're going to re-adhere the body of the bird with the beak underneath. So that was a happy accident. It enabled me to show you. All right. When you go to cut out your pieces, you might think I need to cut outside the line. Cut right on the line. Because I think on my beak I didn't. I was a little bit outside the lines, so it made it bigger. So you just want to make sure that you've got the right size. And depending on what you use, my marker was just had a little bit bigger of a line than a pencil would. So just want to trim them up. So this is the hat band. And then here is the hat piece. I went ahead and cut out the hat piece. So the hat piece is going to go on first. Now, in your layering, I'll give you a couple tips. First of all, some of the solid wool has the modeling in it. Pick the spot where you want that to show. And that's going to be on the underside. That's going to be on what you would be seeing as the wrong side. So if you put the side that you want to show here, it's not going to work because it's going to cover it up. That's going to be down. So take a look and see, because specifically on the leaves, it has a good model to it. And I picked different places for the different sizes of leaves. So you're going to peel off that back. It's got the adhesive on it. If you're going to adhere things before you put it down, like with this hat, it's 2 layers. Don't peel off the back. Leave it on there. Then when you look at the top, this is what you're going to see. Go ahead and adhere that to it. Then you're only adhering one piece to your full piece here. Me, I do things the hard way. So position his hat. Now on the pattern, his head does not close at the top. When I cut him out, I just closed it up because I knew the hat was going to be underneath it. So get his hat on there where you want it. And then I'm going to put the hat band directly on it. And yes, those do stick. So make sure you get it on there right. Okay, that's where we want it. So then we're going to take our iron and And we're going to press, and when you're layering, you're always going to be pressing each layer down. So it just gives that extra heat to make sure it's adhered correctly. And sometimes you have to go back and do the little pieces that didn't quite get it, because when it says layers, there's different heights to the different pieces, so you have to make sure everything is pressed down. Okay, so I think that will do it. Yeah. So there, you have your male bird on there. Your next step would be to go ahead and I would do the female. Make sure you get her positioned correctly, because she has to be kind of close to him, because then the flowers are going to come up over the top. And the stems on the flowers are going to be embroidered, so I want to show you a couple tricks on that. We'll go ahead and leave Mr. Bird. Once you get everything adhered to your background, then you can start your stitching. You want to have everything where it is supposed to be, so you have points of reference to get to. We don't sell this in the shop, but if you have press and seal, you need to put this with your wool stuff. Because if you look at the pattern, the stem of the flowers is pretty lengthy, and there's really no way to copy that to put it on your background and your bird. So if you take out, it should be enough, just a piece of press and seal. I think I got 2 boxes of that on Amazon. Wanted to be sure I had enough, because for a while nobody could find it. And on your pattern, it shows you the stems. Now, when I first looked at this stem, I thought, oh my gosh, that's a really weird stitch. I've never seen that. Well, I was looking at it wrong. It is basically, because there's 3 flowers, it's 3 stems. Now this is where the 3rd flower goes. So you're going to have 3 stems, and then they separate up in here. So take your press and seal, and it works because it's picking everything up. Place it over the top of your pattern, press it down. Take your marker, and then you're going to trace that pattern. On the sticky side?
No, you need to turn your pattern and draw it on the back side, and then turn it, and then draw it's probably back.
For some reason that didn't happen. Okay, Dawn just told me that you're going to draw on what would be
No.
the side going down.
Can I enter? What I would do is I would take a piece of tracing paper, and I would trace this. And then I turn the tracing paper upside down. Tracing paper is very thin paper that you can see through. Okay? So you would trace your stem and give yourself a little reference line, and then turn that upside down, and then put the press and seal on your tracing paper and trace the stem the right side, because it's going to be backwards if you don't.
I wonder if you put this on a light box, if that would show through.
Yeah, maybe it would, but this would get confusing.
Yeah.
I just always put it on a piece of tracing. It doesn't take very long, you know. You just start tracing the stem and the feet, anything that you're going to embroider. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't want you to trace it
So
backwards.
I wonder if you did it this way, if you had the sticky side up, which it's not real sticky, but it might stick to you. Yeah, that would do it. So you could do it either way.
Yeah, right.
You can do it Dawn's way or Nancy's way. I'm the person who pushes buttons until something happens, right or wrong. So if you're tracing it on your sticky side, then you just trace up. And here it's looking like it's solid at the bottom, but you know that there are 3 stems. So go ahead and put the 3 lines, and yours might come together the same way. And just trace all of your whole stem. Tracing paper might work best because it won't stick to you. This doesn't need to be exact if you happen to get off a little bit, because this is just your guide. You see, I went up above the line there because it's sticking to me. Okay, so being stuck to me, then you would take your press and seal, and this space that is empty right here, that's where his wing goes. So then you want to place, back to my pattern, always refer back to your pattern. Okay, this is going to go up over his head because you'll have a leaf coming up pretty close to his hat. And you just want to position it where it goes. Then you press it down onto your wool. And then all you're going to do is do your embroidery over the top. And after you get your embroidery finished, you can just pull this off. It's going to come off, and your stitches are going to hold. I mean, if you just rip it all off, you might mess your stitches up. But just do it gently, hold down on some of your stitches as you're pulling it off. So then you can do your embroidery work. And if we had Mrs. Bertie here, we could see where those flowers were going to fall. And we may have to adjust before we start stitching in order that she didn't have flowers sitting on top of her head, even though that would be really cute. Also, at the same time, you may want to go ahead and do his leg and his feet and get that done. So that will be ready to go. So that's my hack. I think Lenine showed us that a couple years ago, and I thought, well, that's pretty slick.
Thanks, Lenine.
I'm going to hang on to that, and thank you, Dawn. 2 different ways to do it. Like I said, there's more than one way to do things. My way may not be the right way for you. So also you will have a button to put on his hat band. Do that last. Do that when you're doing your embroidery work, because you don't want to have to be pressing around a button.
Oh.
That would be a problem. When you do start your stitching, you can use either the Valdani, or you can use DMC or any kind of floss that you may have. You don't have to use Valdani. Valdani is convenient because it's all wrapped up together. With DMC, you're going to have to use maybe 2 or 3 strands to get the same weight. Pick colors that come as close to matching what you're embroidering on. I kind of think that the DMC green would be a better choice than this Valdani, because I don't think we had a yellowy green in the Valdani. So then you would just do your blanket stitch all the way around. I believe in this first one you'll use the blanket stitch, you'll use an outline or stem stitch, and a French knot. So those will be the stitches that you'll be using. Gosh, have I covered it all? Needles. We carry the wool applique needles from Primitive Gathering. These are the ones that I use, and they're amazing. They're in this little container. I always know where they are, except right now as I'm thinking, which basket are they in with which project. So we have these. I think you get 12 of them for $7, so that's a good deal. Around the outside of this piece is going to be, wool attracts everything, half square triangles. That is your border that's going to go around, and that's where your quilting cotton comes in, and you're going to be using flannel also. So I think it's a 3.5-inch square. You put a quilting cotton and a flannel piece right sides together, and then you're going to draw to where you can stitch 1/4 inch each side of center. Here is a great tool to use. It's a quick quarter, and you would line up your corners in here. This would be what you're stitching on, and out here, when you draw lines there, that would be your cutting line. It works. I don't have this one at home, but I have another one. And I would recommend using these so that you get down the center of the block, and then you're cutting 1/4 inch out. So there is directions in here. They're right here on how to do it. Again, read it first before you cut or sew, and you'll have that. If you've been watching my hands, you'll see that on this finger I've got 2 lines. And if you were in my wool ornament club, I explained this. But this is kind of a guide that you can use. I saw this on Pinterest and thought it was a great idea, so I won't claim to have been the originator of this. But as you're holding your piece, you've got a reference of how wide you want your blanket stitch. So this will wear off. There are some people who may have it tattooed on there, and they are the die-hard woolers. So, you know, put those on. You could even do both fingers or even if you're holding your work a different way, you know, you may want to put them here. So however you hold the fabric that you're quilting on, put those marks there. And that's going to give you good, evenly spaced stitches. So that's your freebie for today. If this is your first wool project, thank you for taking the plunge. You have jumped into the deep end. But if you don't have a lot of tools to start out with, Dawn came up with this wool beginner kit, and it's got some great stuff in it. It's got needles, it's got tweezers, it's got scissors, a marking pen, some fray check. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. So, or even if you're a seasoned wooler and you just need to get some extras, it comes in this cool Always in Stitches bag. Pick these up. We have them in the wool department. I know I've thrown a lot at you today, and I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that I needed to tell you. If you have questions, be sure to put them in the comment section and we'll get with you. If you are having a lot of trouble and you're local, please stop in. I'd be happy to take some time and sit with you and help you out and get you moving and going. If you have questions, you can come in, call, put it in the comments. We'll get with you and get it straightened out and get you on your way on the journey. So I think that's all I have. Peter, have I missed anything?
When you go to piece your quilting cotton half square triangles, when you sew that strip to your background with your wool applique,
Yes.
and I'm assuming right sides together to then turn it over and press it, is there anything they need to know about like stitch length or what weight cotton, since you know you're going through flannel? Is there anything different than
No.
regular sewing that you're doing?
No. Now, sometimes with my machine, it will skip stitches on flannel, and I don't know why it does that on flannel, but just adjust your stitch length if that does happen. Otherwise, just regular yarn, your regular sewing needle. I'll say it again. Read all the directions before you go to do it, because this is where I got into the problem. As I did read through, but it said to trim the applique center, which is this, to 8.5 by 12.5. Well, I did that before I did everything, and that was not right. So that created a problem. Just make sure you do everything step by step. And then when attaching your borders, make sure you're not having to tug and pull, because if you do that, it's going to distort and give you a wavy border, which if you're a quilter, you know not to do that. You can bring in a little bit of ease, but if you're trying to pull out some big puckers, there's a problem somewhere else. So I believe everything is 1/4 inch seams. And here's where I think I got in trouble. Once you sew these together, you're putting 2 3.5 inch blocks together. You trim this block down to a 2.5 inch square. So that once they're sewn together with the 2 cornerstone blocks, you're going to have the right length to come in on these sides. So just make sure that as you're looking and placing your applique pieces, keep in mind that this is going to be trimmed down, and then you're going to have a 1/4 inch seam. So if I had moved him over, I'd be getting into what was being trimmed, and then we might be cutting off his tail when we did the 1/4 inch seam. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind when you're putting your applique pieces down, and it's good to position them. Like if you have a main piece like his body, put it down, look at the location of it, look at how they did in the diagrams and in the picture. Kind of use a point of reference, different things, and then you shouldn't have any problem at all. So, I think that's it, Peter. Is there anything
Sweet.
else?
I can't think of anything.
I'm sure when I go back to my desk, I'm going to have 100 things that I forgot to tell you. But if I do, I'll put them in the comments so that you'll be able to read them. So it sounds like a lot, but once you get everything traced, cut, fused, then the fun begins. That's when you can start stitching everything down, putting those little embellishments in it, and making it a really fun project. And you do have the option, if you go to the back of your book, they give you 2 options. You can either make a full-size quilt to where you'd have all 12 in one quilt, or you can do individual little wall hangings for every month. So they would be individual ones. That's your choice. I'm not going to tell you you have to do one or the other. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do. So you don't have to do that right away unless you're definitely sure that that's what you want to do. So again, I always say it's your project. You do what you want to with it. And I'll also tell you, if you don't like the wool we chose and you have a wool stash, swap it out. You know, I came as close as I could with the colors in the book, but some of them I had to make some different choices with. But if you have like a prettier pink, a lighter pink, or a darker pink, whatever kind of pink you want on your bleeding hearts in your stash, pull that out, use it, and put our pink in your stash. You'll use it for something else later. So again, I think that's it. So have a great day. I hear it's supposed to snow, but I've been so disappointed with the winter.
It is snowing.
My husband kept telling me it's supposed to snow today.
Oh,
and
we gotta cut this video short so we can go out in the snow.
Oh. When he told me, oh yeah, it's supposed to snow tomorrow 2 inches, I just looked at him and said, whatever. So
Whatevs.
It's kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when it sticks. I'll believe it when it's there when I leave work. So there we go. So have a great day. And if you do get a chance, if it is snowing, if it does accumulate and doesn't melt when it hits, go out and play in the snow. Take a walk in the snow. Whatever you need to just to enjoy it. Because
Throw a snowball at your coworker?
no, that's not nice, Peter. Well, wait a minute. Depends on which coworker it is.
We could ambush a couple of them.
Yeah, we could. That just sends my brain off into different directions it doesn't need to go. Okay, well, everybody have a great day and enjoy your stitching and enjoy Bertie's year.